Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something that nobody talks about enough. The moment you finally stop chasing, stop begging, stop explaining yourself over and over again, something strange begins to happen. The same man who ignored your calls, the same man who acted like losing you meant nothing, suddenly starts wondering about you. Suddenly, your silence becomes louder than all the words you ever said. And some of you are sitting there confused, asking yourself, why do men come back after no contact? Why now? Why after I already cried myself to sleep? Why after I finally started healing? Well, today we're going to talk about something powerful. Because the truth is, men often return after no contact for reasons most women never fully understand. And if you understand these reasons, you stop making emotional mistakes. You stop panicking. You stop waiting by the phone. And most importantly, you stop losing your value. See, many women think no contact is some kind of game. They think it's manipulation. They think if I ignore him, maybe he'll miss me. But ladies, real no contact is not about pretending you don't care. It's not about posting fake happy pictures just to make him jealous. It's not about trying to force a reaction. Real no contact is about choosing yourself. It's about saying, I'm done chasing someone who is unsure about me. And here's what's funny. The moment you stop making him your entire world, that's often the moment he starts realizing what he lost. Now listen carefully, because this is where most people misunderstand men. A man doesn't always process emotions immediately. Women often feel pain right away. Women cry, overthink, replay conversations in their minds, ask themselves what they did wrong. But many men, they distract themselves. They go out with friends. They bury themselves in work. They pretend everything is fine. Some even jump into another situation just to avoid feeling the emptiness. Why? Because men are taught to suppress emotions. They're taught to move on quickly, act tough, avoid vulnerability. But emotions delayed are still emotions. Pain postponed is still pain. And eventually, silence catches up. You see, when you were always there texting him, checking on him, trying to fix things, reassuring him, giving him attention, you became predictable. And human beings often fail to appreciate what feels guaranteed. That's not because they're evil. It's because familiarity can make people careless. He got comfortable knowing no matter what I do, she'll still be here. Maybe he took days to reply. Maybe he gave the bare minimum. Maybe he stopped making effort because somewhere deep down, he believed he had unlimited access to you. But then one day, something changed. You stopped calling. You stopped begging. You stopped trying to convince him to choose you. And suddenly, access disappeared. Ladies, let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how people suddenly value something after it's gone? Isn't it amazing? They ignore the flowers while they're blooming, but cry when the garden disappears. That's human nature. Scarcity creates value. When something feels permanent, people relax. But when it's gone, reality hits differently. And no contact creates something powerful: absence. Absence forces reflection. Absence removes distractions. Absence creates questions. And trust me, men ask questions when silence enters the room. He starts wondering, why hasn't she reached out? Did she move on? Is someone else making her smile now? Does she even care anymore? And ladies, here's the thing. Uncertainty affects people deeply, especially someone who thought they still had emotional access to you. Your silence becomes mysterious. Your absence becomes noticeable. Suddenly, he remembers things he ignored: the way you laughed, the way you supported him, the comfort you gave him, the emotional safety he never appreciated while he had it. Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying every man comes back because he's suddenly transformed into Prince Charming. No, no, no. Some men return because of loneliness. Some come back because their ego got bruised. Some come back because the dating world humbled them real quick. They thought grass was greener somewhere else, only to realize healthy love isn't easy to replace. They thought they'd find someone better in 5 minutes, until reality introduced them to inconsistency, drama, confusion, and emotional games. Suddenly, the woman who loved them genuinely starts looking different in their memory. But here's the dangerous part. This is where many women lose themselves. The moment he comes back, they forget everything. They forget the sleepless nights. They forget the disrespect. They forget how abandoned they felt. One text message arrives. Hey, how have you been? And suddenly, all the healing disappears. No standards, no boundaries, no questions asked, just emotional excitement. But ladies, listen to me carefully. Someone returning doesn't automatically mean someone changed. Let me say that one more time for the woman sitting in the back holding on to false hope. Just because a man comes back does not mean he came back better. Sometimes people return because they miss access, not commitment. They miss attention, not responsibility. They miss comfort, not accountability. And if you don't learn the difference, you'll reopen doors that should have stayed closed. You know what powerful women understand? They understand that no contact isn't about getting him back. It's about getting yourself back. It's about rediscovering who you are without emotional chaos controlling your peace. Because somewhere between crying over him, checking his profile, replaying old memories, and blaming yourself, many women lose themselves. They stop eating right. They stop dreaming big. They stop investing in themselves. They forget that before him, they already had value. But something magical happens during true no contact. You begin healing. You begin remembering your worth. You start waking up without anxiety controlling your mornings. You laugh again. You reconnect with yourself. You start realizing, wait a minute, maybe I was settling for less than I deserved. And ladies, confidence changes energy. Healing changes posture. Peace changes your entire presence. The woman who heals is not the same woman who begged. And here's the irony that drives men crazy. Sometimes he comes back when you genuinely no longer need him. Isn't life funny? The moment you stop obsessing, he texts. The moment you finally sleep peacefully, he calls. The moment you stop checking for him, suddenly he remembers your value. Why? Because energy changes. Desperation disappears. Confidence grows. And people can feel when someone no longer depends on their validation. But before you celebrate his return, ask yourself one serious question. Why is he back? Not, do I still love him? Not, did I miss him? Ask, what changed? Did he grow? Did he take accountability? Did actions follow words? Or is this another cycle dressed up as a second chance? Because ladies, there's a big difference between reconciliation and repetition. One builds a healthier future. The other repeats the same heartbreak in a different outfit. See, many women confuse familiarity with destiny. Just because someone comes back doesn't mean they belong in your future. Sometimes people return only to test whether they still have access. Sometimes they come back to soothe their ego. Sometimes they miss what you provided emotionally, but still aren't ready to love you correctly. And if you aren't careful, you'll mistake temporary attention for permanent change. So if you're in no contact right now, hurting, confused, wondering if he'll ever come back, hear me clearly. Stop making your healing dependent on his return. Because the greatest power of no contact is not whether he misses you. It's whether you finally remember who you are. And let me tell you something powerful before I continue. The woman who stops chasing becomes unforgettable. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something that might sting a little, but sometimes truth has to hurt before it heals. One of the biggest reasons men return after no contact is because silence forces reality to speak. You see, when you are constantly available, constantly explaining yourself, constantly trying to make things work, he didn't have to feel the weight of losing you. Why? Because your presence protected him from consequences. Every argument ended with you reaching out. Every cold moment ended with you trying harder. Every distance was closed by your effort. But when no contact begins, something changes. Suddenly, there's no comfort waiting for him, no emotional safety net, no good morning text, no reassurance, no access. And access is something people don't appreciate until it disappears. See, people often confuse love with convenience. Oh yes, let's talk about it. Sometimes a man thinks he moved on, but what he actually misses is the comfort you brought into his life. He misses the emotional support. He misses someone checking on him. He misses having someone who genuinely cared. He misses your loyalty. He misses your softness. He misses the way you celebrated him, even when he doubted himself. And ladies, here's what's painful. Sometimes he only realizes your value after life stops feeling easy without you. Sometimes absence becomes the teacher that your presence never could. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how some people only wake up when they think they're losing something forever? Think about that for a second. Human beings often ignore blessings until fear enters the room. Fear changes perspective. Fear makes people reflect. Fear forces honesty. And no contact creates fear, not because you're punishing him, but because uncertainty enters his mind. He starts asking himself questions he avoided before. What if she's really gone? What if someone else treats her better? What if I messed this up? What if she finally realized she deserved more? And ladies, let me tell you something powerful. Regret grows in silence. See, while you're over there thinking he forgot about you, many men are sitting with thoughts they never expected to have. Maybe he sees something that reminds him of you. A song, a place, a joke you used to laugh at together. Maybe he notices no one understands him the way you did. Maybe he realizes peace is rare. And maybe, just maybe, he starts understanding that finding someone who truly cared isn't as easy as social media makes it look. Because let's be honest for a second. We live in a world where people think options are endless. Swipe left, swipe right. New faces every day. People start believing love is replaceable. They think if this doesn't work, I'll just find someone better. But life has a funny way of humbling people because chemistry is easy to find. Attraction is easy to find. Temporary excitement, oh, that's everywhere. But genuine connection, loyalty, peace, emotional safety, that's rare, that's special. And some men don't realize what they had until they compare temporary excitement to what real care actually felt like. But ladies, I need you to hear me carefully because this next part matters. A man returning doesn't automatically mean he finally understands your worth. Sometimes men return because their ego is uncomfortable. Let's be real. Some men are not used to losing access. They're used to women waiting. They're used to second chances without accountability. They're used to emotional doors staying unlocked. So when you disappear, when you stop reacting, when you stop begging, when you stop chasing, suddenly his ego feels challenged. He starts wondering, Why isn't she calling? Why doesn't she care anymore? Did someone replace me? And for some men, that curiosity alone brings them back. But ladies, curiosity is not commitment. Let me say it louder for the woman who needs to hear this. Missing you is not the same as valuing you. Thinking about you is not the same as changing for you. Returning is not the same as rebuilding. Anybody can send a text. Anybody can say, I miss you. Anybody can pop back into your life when loneliness hits. But growth, accountability, consistency, effort, that takes emotional maturity. And see, this is where standards become important. Because healing women don't just ask, does he want me back? No, powerful women ask better questions. What version of him is returning? Did he actually grow? Did he fix the behaviors that broke us? Is this emotional maturity or emotional convenience? Because ladies, if nothing changed, then all you're doing is repeating pain with better memories attached. You know what breaks my heart sometimes? Watching good women settle for apologies instead of transformation. Watching women accept breadcrumbs because they miss connection. Watching women ignore red flags because loneliness feels heavy. But listen to me carefully. Loneliness has made many people reopen doors that peace worked hard to close. And I know what some of you are thinking right now, but I still love him. Of course you do. Love doesn't disappear overnight. Missing someone doesn't mean you made the wrong decision. Pain doesn't mean you should go backwards. Sometimes your heart remembers the good while your soul remembers the damage. Sometimes you miss the person while still knowing the relationship hurt you. And that conflict, that's real. That's human. But here's something I want you to understand. No contact changes you too. It's not just about what he feels. It's about who you become. Because when you stop obsessing over someone else, you finally have room to rebuild yourself. You start focusing on your goals again. You start sleeping better. You start taking care of your body, your mind, your peace. You start remembering that your happiness was never supposed to depend on one person texting back. And something powerful happens when a woman starts healing. Her standards rise. Her energy changes. Her desperation disappears. Suddenly, she no longer tolerates confusion. Suddenly, mixed signals stop feeling romantic. Suddenly, bare minimum effort starts looking exactly like what it is, insufficient. And ladies, this is often the moment men feel the shift. Why? Because people sense energy. When you stop chasing, stop begging, stop over-explaining, something changes. You become calmer, more confident, more centered. You stop trying to prove your worth because deep down, you finally know it. And confidence has a strange effect on people. It makes them pay attention. But let me tell you something most people won't say out loud. Sometimes the greatest win of no contact is realizing you no longer want him back. Oh yes, let's talk about that. Because sometimes healing gives clarity. Sometimes distance removes emotional fog. Sometimes time helps you see that you were fighting for potential, not reality. Sometimes you realize you loved who he could be, not who he consistently showed himself to be. And isn't that interesting? The very thing you feared, losing him, becomes the thing that frees you. You start realizing that peace feels better than anxiety. Self-respect feels better than begging. Confidence feels better than confusion. Emotional stability feels better than inconsistent love. So yes, men often come back after no contact. Some return because they regret losing you. Some return because loneliness caught up to them. Some return because life humbled them. Some return because they realize your value too late. And some come back simply because they thought you'd always be there. But the real question isn't whether he returns. The real question is this: when he returns, will you still be the same woman who let him leave without consequences? Because healing changes people. And sometimes the strongest thing a woman can say is, I forgive you, but I'm not going backwards. Ladies and gentlemen, now we've arrived at the part nobody likes to talk about: the truth after the return. Because everybody wants to know if he'll come back, but very few people stop and ask what happens when he does. And listen to me carefully, because this part can change your entire life if you truly understand it. A man coming back is not the finish line. Sometimes it's the test. The real question is not whether he misses you. The real question is whether he's capable of loving you differently than before. You see, many women spend weeks, months, even years praying for a text message, waiting for closure, waiting for an apology, waiting for some sign that they mattered. And then one day the phone lights up. Hey, I've been thinking about you. Just like that, 4 words. 4 words after all the tears. 4 words after all the confusion. 4 words after nights when you questioned your worth. And suddenly emotions come rushing back like a flood. The memories, the chemistry, the hope, the fantasy of maybe this time will be different. But ladies, listen to me very carefully. Nostalgia is dangerous when healing is incomplete. Because nostalgia has a way of editing reality. It makes you remember the late night talks, but forget the sleepless nights. It makes you remember the good moments, but ignore the disrespect. It highlights chemistry while hiding inconsistency. And if you're not careful, you'll confuse emotional familiarity with emotional safety. Let me ask you something. Have you ever gone back to something thinking it changed, only to realize it was the same lesson wearing different clothes? Same excuses, same confusion, same disappointment, different day. Different promises, same pain. Because people don't change because they miss you. They change because they confront themselves. They change because they take responsibility. They change because discomfort forced growth. Missing you is emotional. Growth is behavioral. And this is where powerful women separate themselves from emotionally exhausted women. Powerful women stop listening only to words. They watch patterns. Oh yes, let's talk about patterns. Because somebody can miss you and still mistreat you. Somebody can cry for you and still not choose you properly. Somebody can love you in their own broken way and still not be healthy for your peace. So when he returns, don't just ask, do I still love him? Ask deeper questions. Does he communicate differently? Does he respect boundaries? Does he show consistency? Does his effort match his promises? Has he become emotionally mature, or is he just emotionally lonely? Because ladies, loneliness has sent a lot of people back to places they never planned to stay. And let me say something that may surprise some of you. Sometimes men come back because your silence forced self-reflection. Sometimes losing you became the wake-up call they needed. Sometimes they truly grow. Sometimes they realize they were immature, selfish, emotionally unavailable. Sometimes they genuinely understand your worth after life teaches them lessons they ignored when you tried teaching them with love. Yes, growth is possible. People can change. Relationships can heal. But hear me carefully. Healthy reconciliation requires accountability. Not excuses, accountability. A changed person doesn't just say, "I'm sorry." A changed person says, "I understand how I hurt you, and here's what I'm doing differently." A changed person creates peace where there used to be chaos. A changed person rebuilds trust through action, not charm. Because let's be honest, words are easy. Oh, words are cheap sometimes. I miss you. I changed. You're different. I made a mistake. Anybody can say beautiful things when emotions hit, but consistency, that's expensive. Effort, that's expensive. Emotional maturity, that costs something. And ladies, don't confuse temporary emotions for permanent transformation. Now I want to talk to the woman who secretly hopes he regrets losing her. Come closer for a second. I understand. I know part of you wants validation. You want proof that you mattered. You want him to realize he made a mistake. You want him to feel what you felt. That's human. But don't build your healing around someone else's regret. Because what if he never apologizes? What if closure never comes? What if the lesson was never about getting him back, but about getting you back? See, some of the strongest women became powerful not because someone loved them correctly, but because heartbreak forced them to rediscover themselves. Pain introduced them to strength they never knew they had. Rejection taught them self-respect. Silence taught them peace. Loneliness taught them independence. And one day they looked in the mirror and realized something incredible. I survived what I thought would destroy me. That's the real power of no contact. It teaches you that your world does not end because somebody walked away. It teaches you that healing is possible. It teaches you that happiness is still available. It teaches you that your value was never attached to someone choosing you. And here's the irony of life. Sometimes the moment he comes back is the exact moment you've outgrown the version of yourself that once begged for him. Isn't that amazing? The woman who once cried for his attention is now protecting her peace. The woman who once settled for crumbs now recognizes her worth. The woman who once feared being alone now realizes loneliness is better than emotional confusion. And maybe that's why men often return after no contact. Because distance creates clarity. Because silence creates reflection. Because absence exposes value. Because losing someone forces people to confront what they took for granted. But ladies, hear me clearly before we end this conversation. A man returning is not proof you should reopen the door. It's simply information. Information, nothing more. The real power belongs to you. You decide if access is deserved. You decide if trust is earned. You decide whether history repeats itself or healing creates a better future. Because a high-value woman does not welcome someone back simply because they knocked. She asks, what changed? She asks, can this love protect my peace? She asks, does this relationship add to my life or drain it? And if the answer is confusion, inconsistency, emotional games, or empty promises, she walks away with dignity. Let me leave you with this, ladies and gentlemen. No contact is powerful, not because it makes someone miss you. No contact is powerful because it reminds you that you are whole, valuable, and worthy, even without the person who walked away. And sometimes the greatest comeback story is not his return. It's the woman who finally realized she never needed to chase love that was meant to stay.